So it is a AI native BI platform that essentially combines SQL, Python, AI all together so that it allows anyone to do Vibelytics. My team actually we build all these dashboards, reports, but when we check the log, most time we build a dashboard for somebody for certain type of questions, but then it would never be used anymore. So whenever there's another question, they would still come to us. I've been working in this data domain for quite a while, over a decade. So I was trained as a computer scientist, and then I got my PhD in machine learning. And then later I joined Yahoo, moved on to Lyft, work on sales forecasting analytics. In the future, we believe that AI BI system, it will proactively looking for like business opportunities and insight and surface to you. Almost have somebody to regularly review your product health, business health for you.
Hi, this is Benjamin. Before we jump into the show, I wanted to quickly reach out on a personal note. We've just launched Firebolt Core. Firebolt Core is the free, self-hosted version of our Postgres-compliant SQL query engine. Firebolt Core runs anywhere. You can run it on your laptop, you can run it in a scale-out configuration on your local on-prem data center or public cloud environments. Firebolt Core is great for either running big data ELT jobs on, for example, your iceberg tables, or powering low-latency customer-facing analytics on big data. We'd love for you to try out Core and give us feedback. You can either hop onto the GitHub discussions or issues, kind of join our Discord, or just send me an email at benjamin@firebolt.io. We added a link to our GitHub repository to the show notes. And with that, let's jump straight into today's episode.
The Data Engineering Show is brought to you by Firebolt, the cloud data warehouse for AI apps and low-latency analytics. Get your free credits and start your trial at firebolt.io.
Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the Data Engineering Show. Great to have you on. Today, I'm really happy to have Lei joining us, who's the co-founder and CTO of Fabi.ai. I hope I pronounced that correctly. Elliot is on vacation today, so he can't join us, but he'll, I think, be back kind of for the next show. Great to chat with you today, Lei. Tell us what you're doing at Fabi and tell us how you actually got to starting an AI native BI company.
Sure. Yeah. So thanks for having me here, Benjamin. So I right now I'm building Fabi.ai. So it is a AI native BI platform that essentially combines SQL, Python, AI all together so that it allows anyone to do Vibelytics. And so no matter where your data lives, it could be in a database data warehouse, but it could also be an Excel file, a Google Sheet, or even just an API from application. You could be able to pull the data through Fabi and then be able to join this data from different sources together to do some analysis. The cool part is that now within Fabi, you can really leverage AI to supercharge your data analysis like 10x faster. So our users include not just data engineer, data scientists, data analysts, but also like say other data practitioners such as product managers, founders, growth marketers, operation team. So anybody who want to embrace data to make decisions, you can use Fabi to do the analysis, right? So that's about Fabi. So about myself, I've been working in this data kind of domain for quite a while, over a decade. So I was trained as a computer scientist, and then I got my PhD in machine learning. So while in graduate school, mostly using MATLAB, loading CSV files, doing some research, and then later I joined Yahoo. At that moment, big data, like Hadoop, Spark, that has been the main thing. And later moved on to work on sales forecasting analytics and help growth as well. So that's where I get exposed to NoSQL, SQL database, analytics DB, right? So the one common theme I have been experiencing is that we normally would work with other business stakeholders, could be marketing, could be operations, could be sales. And then on one hand, they have a lot of questions, coming to the data team and then ask some questions. But then our data team normally just it's always underwater. So that so many things need to do. And then so never can satisfy the requirement. And then So that's why, like, when I was at Lyft, I actually tried a few different attempts, really trying, really to empower my business partners. Like, we tried to do some SQL training for our marketing team. So I would say it was a very limited success. Probably only quite a few after training be able to really like use SQL by themselves to do some analysis. But on the other hand, my team actually like we build all these dashboards like reports like but when we check the log most time we build a dashboard for somebody for certain type of questions, but then it would never be used anymore. So whenever there's another question, they would still come to us. So that's like a almost like always a pain for kind of my team, but also like say for my business like partners. That's why like in 2022 when like AI really kind of like ChatGPT was out, I said, man, this is the time, this is the moment to tackle problem like my team myself has been suffering for a long while. So that's how we started Fabi. So it has been a fantastic journey so far. So
Okay, nice. That's amazing. So, I mean, Vibe, I like this term you said in the beginning, like almost like Vibe.ai, right? Like, which kind of makes perfect sense. And like, maybe tell us a bit more about how you think, because you have such a prolific career in data across organizations, right? Kind of like at Walmart, at kind of being chief data scientist at Clary, kind of being director of data science at Lyft. It's like, but you were always in these, I think, very just traditional how the world used to run, right? Okay, like someone needs a specific dashboard. Someone needs a specific type of, I don't know, CXO report that they look at every morning to kind of influence certain decision making. It's like all of a sudden you wake up one morning and you, at least in principle, any person in your organization should have access to be able to answer any question about the data that's collected. It's like, how do you even build a data platform like that? Like, what are you doing different now at Fabi than you would have in a traditional BI platform? Like, I don't know, Looker, Tableau, Sisense, etc.
yeah, very good question. So if you talk to anybody working in the BI space, like self-service BI, that has been a term for maybe for the past decade. But I have to say, that is a false promise. So
Right, yeah.
one hand, especially for data engineers, the one key point is that there's a lot of upfront like cost in order to set up this service BI to work, right? So you have to define all the data semantics and then and potentially centralize the data, make sure the data is in the good quality, define the semantic in certain like using LookML or maybe some other type of language, and then you want to encourage your business stakeholders, like less technical partners, to use the product in order to do some self-service analysis. But then on one hand, most organization either documentation or semantics is quite missing. And then on the other hand, most organizations, the data, like the schema, the kind of business, like metrics and logic has been constantly evolving. So it's really difficult to catch up with what is going on within the business. And then on the other hand, you will see, I would say, the more senior level the leader is, the more likely they would just refuse to go to a dashboard and check out the metrics. And then they would prefer to, okay, just send me the numbers or send me an Excel file. So I kind of work off of that, right? So, and moreover, most of the time, these dashboards are very static. Of course, you can put some input filters, but then people always have some customized like follow-up questions. Oh, there's some metrics going on and I can zoom in into certain product lines or certain regions. But moreover is that the BI dashboards is a static. It focuses on one type of analytics that's like describe what is going on. But the more likely, especially from the company, from the organization, they care more about those type of why question. What can we do about it? Like for example, last week the metric went up by 10%, like for new user onboarding. What was going on? Is like we did something right or like something else? So there's a lot of like hypothesis testing. That's why you have all the data scientists, data analysts need to zoom into kind of like say, oh, potentially because we launch a new product, or maybe sometimes it could be like the ETL pipeline has a bug. We need to kind of make sure the numbers actually make sense. So for the past decade, it's really difficult to make sure like this self-service BI can work. And then now with AI, I saw one I would say one attempt is to let people talk directly to the database, which I would say that's really that's like highly not recommended, because enterprise data tends to be very noisy, very complex. And then on one hand, the data semantics, of course, like you define all the database schema, you can get some information there. But more importantly, like lots of this business logic is spreading across different teams, different individuals.
Right.
So if you just let anybody to talk direct to your database, most likely you will get wrong result. Like, using all this AI and RM, they have no problem writing syntax correct SQL queries.
Right.
But when you the worst part is that it can run properly, but the numbers are wrong, right?
Yeah.
So you immediately like might lose some trust with the person, with the user. And moreover, as I mentioned, like SQL is only one part of the analysis. It's almost like the first step to pull the data in, but then afterwards you might run some statistic like correlation analysis, and then potentially even like pulling some machine learning model that like I want to forecast, look based on the trend, forecast what will be the numbers like next month, next week. So AI actually today can make it very easy to use. So that's what like Fabi has been really focused on, is saying that we really want those data team to be able to configure, like say, what type of data is exposed to, like say, less technical folks. And then you can your customer instructions and the configurations, like say semantics and business logic. And one difference compared with the past BI platform is that right now you can define the data semantics or business context in a very fluent way. Like you can just upload a text and then the AI can really understand well, rather than in the past, you have to go through all these tables, like configured one by one. But right now you can do the customization. And one more step further is that the AI can learn from the interactions, right? So depending on how people interact with Fabi, with the product, like, and also what type of queries, what type of metric has been used in the dashboard. And then the AI can learn from the past interactions and be able to answer like relevant or similar questions in a very accurate way. So that's what we are super excited about, like this Vibelytics. Now you can have data team to really focus on make sure the data is in a good form for the AI to use. But then other like the business stakeholders, data practitioners, they can ask questions, but they have some boundary like which is set up by the data team, so they can trust like the model output. And more is that most of the time when you have a sense about the business, by just looking at the numbers or just by looking at the chart, you immediately get a sense saying that, okay, this doesn't look right, please back. And then the AI can figure out, okay, what I'm likely. Maybe it's doing some double counting, doing the joins, or maybe something else, right? So I think this is really powerful to allow anybody to bounce ideas, like go through multiple iterations quickly to see, like get the numbers, get the analysis as one needs.
But then basically, like in that world, for me to also understand where you think that is going, like, okay, we'll have a data team that basically procures data sets and important business metrics. And kind of that might tell a tool like Fabi, hey, this view contains, I don't know, our like annualized revenue broken down by month, whatever, right? And like then Fabi basically gets that context provided by the data team. But when a CXO just asks random questions about their business, the goal of the Vine BI tool basically becomes to match that human question to the entities or underlying kind of things provided by the data team. So you're still ultimately in the business of building like a semantic model, data model, all of these things, but all of a sudden it's not just this political thing within the organization. It really becomes that tool that empowers all of your AI vibe interactions with data. Is that accurate?
Yeah. So I think this, in order to build AI native BI, I would say the focus really the focus should be how human interact with AI, right? So that's why like many of these efforts, like for example, you want to define semantic layer, but right now with AI, you probably want to define in a markdown text, which is more appealing to the AI to consume, right? So and then combined with some of these MCP servers, you can pull like external documentations or like say Confluence page or maybe linear tickets. Like all this can be combined to provide the context. So the semantics itself becomes part of the context for the AI engine. And then on the other hand, as I mentioned, is that the AI itself should learn from past interactions. Like say on kind of course, like as the data team, you can configure like custom type like instructions, like say, or really emphasize like how the metric is defined, or like say only focus on certain type tables. Like take myself, like I used to kind of when I was working on left, I searched for some revenue kind of a number, and then immediately I got like 200 tables containing the revenue, right? So you really have to kind of figure out like in the end, what I did is like in the past is to talk to the person to really understand which table, which column I should use. But right now you can just use freeform text to config for that and pass to AI as a context. On the other hand, as I mentioned, is that uh, the AI should be able to learn. It's like you consider the AI should have some form of memory. By learning from these interactions, it could somehow remember, okay, these are the contexts. It's almost like you have a new hire in your team gradually as the interaction with kind of other coworkers.
We're using Devon, for example, to make like documentation changes. That's similar, right? Like it learns over time, formalizes knowledge to do better code changes in the future. So it makes perfect sense to have a similar way of generating knowledge or context kind of through interactions in Vibe BI tools. Nice. Super interesting. So one other thing. Okay, now I understand. Fabi kind of connects to a bunch of data sources, maybe even like Google Sheets, Postgres, Snowflake, etc. Kind of it can produce data in multiple shapes as well. It can produce you a Google Sheet, it can produce you a Slack message, etc. Tell us about your internal data stack, actually. Like what connects these two things? Like what do you run internally to connect the different pieces of technology? How's your basically data stack that powers Fabi as a product?
Yeah, so the underlying kind of text structure is that we build this agentic flow for our AI system. So kind of within that, like we have all this, like one part is like this context engineering. So it would have the rack system to retrieve from all these like different contexts, like could be database schema, metadata, could be like a past query examples, and then and also like you can upload any documentations. So all these would be part of the context to be retrieved for in generate the answer. But on top of that, we are also working on this MCP server so that you can essentially connect with your own MCP server depending on your organization, like where your documentation lives, right? So you can just connect with like a Notion doc, like an MCP server, then you can just like pass all this like semantic information or like some business context, like properly. And then, so that's one. Then the other part is that in order to make an agentic flow, we have all these dry runs to ensure that whenever this AI generates some code, could be SQL, could be Python, it will run, and we verify this, like, first of all, there's no syntax error, and then it will dry run in a way so that it will verify with the database or like tape or API schema, and then be able to present you the result in the chat interface. Behind that, we have this containerized environment. So it's like a kernel environment, like to allow you to run SQL or to allow you to run Python. So that I think this is like, especially when talking about many of these organizations, security is actually a key issue. And then we want to ensure all these code are running in a containerized environment so that you don't need to worry about, this accidentally like have some malicious code, like swipe out kind of your database. I think there's many interesting stories about that.
And when I run SQL in the Fabi environment, in this kind of container environment, what query engine powers that? Or is like the SQL in your source system? So it might be Snowflake SQL, it might be Databricks SQL, it might be Postgres SQL.
So it really depends on the SQL dialect. So because our tech stack has primary in kind of Python, so we believe that all this BI platform, we strongly believe that BI should be stored as code. So we can do versioning. You can manage the workflow, how to run it properly, right? So in the back, like everything is converted into some form like a Python code. And then for the to connect to the database data warehouse, we essentially use SQL Acme, and then you can use different dialects to pull in. Once you pull in, it becomes like a pandas or like a polars like data frame, and then you can do subsequent analysis or visualization as you want.
Okay, interesting. So everything is basically pulled in from sources through data frames, and then if I wanted to join a Google Sheet onto my Postgres table or something, that would actually not happen within the SQL ecosystem. It would happen more like within the Python ecosystem.
Yes, and the
I understand.
one thing to add is that our kernels actually is a stateful, so the keep all these variables in memory. On top of that, we also dynamic cache the data, so you don't want to constantly sending all the query to a Snowflake or like a BigQuery instance, and then so it's all cached in certain way, and then so that we based on all these code blocks, we determine the dependency and then see whether or not this code actually needs to refresh. And then we select say, oh, these code blocks need to run. This one actually can just reuse the cache on disk or in memory, so that you don't need to worry about blowing up your data warehouse bills. And then it also keep the latency really fast, especially when you're doing these Vibelytics. It's you're constantly on the go. It's try out different ideas and see the result, right? So this is actually really critical as you have a short latency and be able to try out different ideas, run the analysis, especially when you are working on connecting with different data sources together to run the analysis.
Right. Nice. So super cool. Like looking ahead now, right? Like a year from now, like Vibelytics and so on. Like, what are you excited about? What's going to happen in the space? What are you guys working on at Fabi that you're excited to launch soon? Tell us, look a bit into the future. I know it's super hard in the space that's moving that quickly, but would love to get your take on that.
Sure. Yeah. So we believe that first of all, maybe within a couple of years, say Vibe analytics, Vibe building, that will be the norm for anybody to to interact with the data, run some analysis. But beyond that, and then we believe that the AI, essentially this BI system or AI BI system, would be more like an agent, and then it will proactively looking for business opportunities and insight and surface to you. Right now, you can consider all these BI dashboards is static. You have to go to the dashboard in order to see what's going on. But in the future, it will say proactively looking for look at all these dashboards, look at all these metrics, and the potential surface oh, there's something going on. I already run some analysis for you. These are certain things you need to pay attention. So you almost have somebody to regularly review your product health, business health, and then be able to surface the insights and the opportunity for you. And then one more thing is that the interface between AI and also say human beings, we believe that would be some new invention, new form will be coming. Today, we are still getting used to this chat interface and some form of static BI dashboards, but it could be way more interactive and dynamic. I think this one one idea is that you may kind of have some debrief, like summarize everything into a podcast and deliver to you. Or maybe just like you generate all the exact summary in a few slides. And then so we believe that a lot of things will be coming, really like I would say reshape how people interact with data and be able to deliver the insights as they want.
Nice. It's a super interesting space, Lei. I look forward to continuing to just watching what you built at Fabi. Excited to see how you also help build the future around Vibelytics. Would love to stay in touch. Thank you so much for being on the Data Engineering Show. It was a pleasure having you.
Thank you for having me. Yeah, it's a really nice, kind of a nice conversation. Yeah.
Awesome. I feel the same.
The Data Engineering Show is brought to you by Firebolt, the cloud data warehouse for AI apps and low latency analytics. Get your free credits and start your trial at firebolt.io.